We have our provisional completed, and we're going to pretend that this has created our ideal soft tissue profile, and we want to preserve that in our impression to transfer it to the technician. So what we want to do is we want to recapture this contour on our screw retain impression coping so that our tissue doesn't collapse in the time that it takes the impression material to set. And so what we have is just an analog that's been placed in stone in a medicine cup. And we're going to put our provisional on the analog. So we're indexing it and timing it into place. And now we're going to capture that contour in our gingival moulage material. This material that I'm using is called Gingitech, and it's fairly runny. It's not as viscous as some other materials, so I'm going to apply it really slowly and let it set so it doesn't all just flatten out. And I'll kind of come up on the tooth a little bit and let it run down. And what we want to do is make sure that we capture at least everything subgingival out and some of the restoration somewhat supragingival. We can also trim this with a 12 blade once it's set if it's too high on our restoration. So our gingiva has completely cured. We will remove our provisional. And now we have the exact contour of our provisional on our little cup. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take an impression coping. I've air abraded it with aluminum oxide just to roughen it up. I will apply some dentin adhesive. And cure. And now we will place our impression coping onto our analog. And what we want to make sure is that we're not applying too much pressure anywhere. Oftentimes the only place you might be applying any whatsoever is on the lingual. This one looks like it might be slightly, but it's not going to be too much to cause too much blanching when we go back to the mouth. And the main thing is that we're not encroaching on the facial gingival margin or our interproximal papilla. We'll go ahead and screw that in. We're now coming in with our flowable composite and recapturing our emergence profile and subgingival contours of our screw retained provisional restoration. We will just kind of let that self-level. And the reason that we've used this gingival material is because we can light cure it and cure that resin. We'll then remove our impression coping. And now you'll notice that we have the exact same subgingival contour on this that we have in the patient's screw retained provisional. And I just want to evaluate and make sure that I don't have any voids. And it looks absolutely perfect. So the last thing that we will do is I'll slightly adjust this. I'll go into our alcohol to remove our oxygen inhibited layer. I'll remove any irregularities so that our impression material seats nicely and it will snap back into the impression and have a nice positive seat. And the only place that I'm adjusting is the portion that's going to be supragingival. Our final step will be screwing in our custom impression coping to the patient's implant. We're going to fully screw it into place. We would then place our cotton pellet over our access, and we are ready to apply our light body impression material and seat our tray, and that will maintain our soft tissue profile for the 4 minutes or so that it takes our impression material to set. We would then take this out, put the patient's provisional back in, and send the case to the lab.